we looked at long multiplication. That's because when we officially shift to the computer assignments next week, you will see at least one multiplication problem per assignment. It'd probably just be one because, again, I'm not trying to kill you with that. But I think that if you practice one per day for a while and you still don't know how to do it, then it's just because you really don't care. Same thing goes for today's topic, which is basic percentages. A lot of students take tests and quizzes and have no idea where your final grade comes from. This leads students to believe that the math instructor somehow gives you a grade. Although I cannot speak for other courses, math is a course in which your final grade is 100% based on your ability to follow directions and answer questions correctly. Sometimes you miss points for not following directions, of course. As I explained yesterday, the way that your multiplication is going to be graded is whether or not you show me where the answer came from. So that's where you lose your points. But outside of that, that's just another story. There's two types of percentages. One is basic and the other is weighted. Although some of your course grades might be based on a weighted course scale, most of these assignments are just a basic percentage because it does take experience with this type of work before you can get to a weighted scale. So I'm not going to try to confuse you again. This here is just mainly focusing on the basic skills necessary to find a percentage. In order to empower you as a student, because you should be able to fight for yourself and keep things understood on your side, we'll add the calculation of a basic percentage to our fundamental skills. It does require division, and although we do have the problems in class without a calculator, you'll have access to a calculator next week on the computer-based assignments, so don't lose confidence. Instead, use this moment to work on remembering the process of long division as we work through the examples. And again, make sure you're asking questions about the stuff that you need to know. We know that a fraction is made up of a numerator and denominator. The numerator goes on top, denominator goes on the bottom, but what you might not know is that a fraction is simply a division problem. So when you see 3/4, which is what we say, 3/4 actually means 3 divided by 4. So that's something you can type into your calculator or work out using long division to convert it into another number. 5/11, which is how we read it, could also be 5 divided by 11. And because of that, our only new skill in finding basic percentage is understanding how to place the numbers. So let's review the general skill of long division before we look at the examples from today's work and see what we can do. 235 over 5. Pretty much what I remember is that I try to remember the phrase inside out whenever I do division, which means the first thing I say goes inside, the second thing I say goes out. So 235 goes in, 5 goes out. If you remember that, you ask yourself how many times does 5 go into 2, which it doesn't. And so you just see it as 23 now. 5 goes into 23 4 times. Again, feel free to ask about this stuff, but as you keep going, you'll get there. Now you multiply. 4 times 5 is 20. You subtract to find out how much is left over. 23 minus 20 is 3. Make sure this number is not bigger than that one there because it does kind of throw things off. And then if you remember, the next thing you do is bring down the next value and check how many times 5 goes in here. 5 goes into 35 7 times. 7 times 5 is 35, and when you subtract, you end up with 0, which is what you're supposed to end up with. So that is your long division. Again, don't worry about that part of it because pretty much on the main work you're going to do, you're going to have a calculator to do this stuff. But we will eventually be looking at long division just to make sure we at least can do the basic level. Again, I'm not talking about dividing by 27, but just basic numbers, single digit numbers and things like that. Inside out, so 504 divided by 2. 2 goes into 5, it actually does 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract and get 1. Bring down your 0. Now you check 2 going into 10, which is 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. That leaves me with 0. Bring down 4. This 0, 4 is just 4, so 2 goes into 4 2 times. When I multiply that, I get 0 as my leftover. And again, the answer on those long divisions are up there. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're doing that. 576 divided by 9. Inside should be 576. Outside should be 9. 9 does not go into 5, but it does go into 57. Again, because I know my numbers, I know it'll be 54, which would be 6 times. Because 6 times 9 is 54. Subtract those two numbers. Bring down your 6. 9 goes into 36 4 times. And again, I'm not explaining it at a level as if you don't know it at all, but if you are having issues, make sure you speak up. Because again, that's the key idea to kind of succeed in your math class. If you're not speaking up when you have an issue, you're giving the teacher permission to leave you behind. And I need you to remember that because that's in all of your classes. 11 does not go into 1. 11 does not go into 10. By the way, inside out. That's why that went on the inside. This went on the outside. But 11 doesn't go into 1. 11 doesn't go into 10. It does go into 107. How many times? I don't know. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77, 88, 99. And then I believe that's 110. So I think it only goes in 9 times. So we'll try it out and see what happens. The way you know it doesn't work is if the answer is bigger than 11. But let's see. This is even going to bring in some subtraction here. Can't do 7 minus 9, so we borrow. And I can't do that either, so we borrow from 1, turning that into a 0, making that a 10. Borrowing, making that a 9, turning that into 17. Nice lesson on the fly there. 17 minus 9 is 8. 9 minus 9 is 0. So yes, 8 is what's left over. Then bring down your 8, and 11 should go into 88 8 times with 0 left over. So in general, again, you won't be doing these kinds of problems, but I just wanted to make sure you looked at long division before I started working through the other ones, because the ones we have here have a bigger number on top, and most of your percentages, the bigger number is going to be on the bottom. So again, pay attention and try to see if you can understand it. But you will be able to use a calculator on these things when it really counts. So just kind of, look for the sake of trying to figure out what's going on. So if you take a quiz and get 5 questions correct out of 7, what's your percent score? Round to the nearest whole percent. So what we're going to do is go 3 digits in. What happens is you take your number that you got. The total will always go on the bottom. So your fraction here would be 5 over 7. And that's going to be the first thing you want to do. I got 5 out of 7, 5 sevens, however you want to view that. But again, that's 5 divided by 7, which if you're working this out, inside out means 5 goes on the inside, 7 goes on the outside. Now here is our problem. 7 doesn't go into 5. And so when that happens and you're doing your division, you want to add a decimal point and a 0. Bring your decimal point straight up and then go from there. 7 goes into 50 7 times. Again, I'm just kind of going as if we know our facts. If you practice these things, you will get better. 7 times 7, 49. 50 minus 49 is 1. Notice I still have a number left over. So what do? I add another 0 and bring it down. 7 goes into 10 1 time. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract, bring it down to 3. Well, guess what? This isn't your percentage yet because you need a third number. Because your percentage is this number here, as we'll talk about and adjust that. But the key thing here is that you do need a third number to know if it's 71 or 72. So what we will do is add another 0 and bring it down. 7 goes into 30 4 times, which is 28. Doesn't really matter there, but I have 714. If you remember about decimals to percentages, you have 0.714. What you will do is move this decimal 2 spots to the right, giving us 71.4%. But again, we don't need that. And remember that if this number, when you're rounding, is smaller than 5, you just leave it as it is, which means your answer would be 71%. Yes, it will take a little bit of work, but again, I think that we are smart enough to kind of do that as long as you're willing to put the work in. It'll just take you to make a few mistakes, and then after a while, you'll get used to it. And also, as I said, you will be using a calculator on it, so you will literally just be taking this, typing in 5 divided by 7, looking at your answer here, recognizing that 4 doesn't change it, and just saying 71% will be the skill that you actually have. But I do want to make sure you see these skill sets because it's important that you see these processes if you're going to get better. You take a test to get 4 correct out of 9. That would be 4 out of 9 or 4/9. Inside out means 4 goes in, 9 goes out. I can't put 9 into 4, so I add a decimal and a 0. Viewing this as 40. 9 goes into 40, I believe, 4 times. 4 times 9 is 36. Subtract 40 minus 36 is 4. Again, once I have that, I have to add a 0 and bring it down. 9 goes into 40 again 4 times. Don't forget to bring your decimal up. So 4 there, which is again 36. Bring down a 4. I think we're into a pattern here. So because I need a third number, I add one more 0, bring it down. 9 goes into 4 times. So what we have is 0.444, which based off of our rule says we move this 2 spots to the right, which makes it 44.4%, but we don't want the percent because we want the nearest whole percent. So what we're going to do is say, since this isn't bigger than 5, leave it alone. We're looking at 44%. And again, if you were to do this in your calculator, 4 divided by 9, knowing that we only want 2 digits, ask if the third digit bumps it up, which it doesn't, and your answer is 44%. So again, it's not a major thing to worry about. You just got to make sure you're ready to go whenever everything goes through. You play a game and make 8 shots out of 11. What's your shooting percentage? Again, your total goes on the bottom, so it's 8 out of 11, which means we're going to put 8 on the inside, 11 on the outside. 11 does not go into 8, so add your decimal and 0. 11 does go into 87 times because that would be 77. Subtract, getting 3. Again, I need another number, add a 0, bring it down. 11 goes into 30, I think 2 times because that would be at 22 without passing it up. Subtract, you get 8. We need a third number, so add this 0. 11 goes into 87 times, and I don't need anything else because I just need a third digit, so we have 0.727. Taking that and moving your decimal to the right 2 spots would be 72.7%, which is good because this is bigger, 5 or bigger. And what that means is that it doesn't stay at 72, it actually bumps it up to 73%, which is what you're looking at. So again, if the number's 4 or lower, leave it alone. If the number's 5 or higher, bump it up 1 more and go from there. You attend 3 out of 5 classes this week. What is your percent of attendance? Round to the nearest whole percent. So again, 3 out of 5, which means we put 3 on the inside, 5 on the outside, decimal 0. 5 does not go into 3, but it does go into 30 6 times. That would be 30, giving us 0. Now here's the thing, I need a second number, and because I need a second number, let's go ahead and add that second 0 and bring it down. 5 goes into 0 0 times, and that's really what it is. 5 does not go into 0, so it'll be 0. And of course, when you do that, you get 0 as your answer. Because I don't have anything else left over, I don't need to go anywhere else because it's just 0.60, which, as you know, if I move that 2 spots to the right, that is 60%. So your percent of attendance for that question would be 60%. So before moving on, let's just look at that problem we just solved. Someone attends 60% of class and learns everything they actually see. What percent would you expect for them to have in that class? Well, to me, if you see 60% of the classes and you learn all your material, the most you can have, in my opinion, is a 60%. What is the lowest passing percentage in high school? I don't know if you know about most high school scales, but 90, 80, 70, 60 is usually what it is. 90% is your lowest A, so if you have a 90, anything in the 90s is an A, anything in the 80s is a B, anything in the 70s is a C, anything in the 60s is a D, which means if you attend 3 out of 5 classes and learn everything you're supposed to learn and don't go in for makeup work, don't try to make up anything you missed, the highest you should actually see is a 60%, which puts you barely passing. So what does that tell you about the importance of attending school? I would say make sure that you try your best to show up, because again, the biggest issues I have is students who miss class a lot and then complain to me saying that, you know, they don't do well in school, or saying it's my fault they're not doing well in school. If you're not at school and you don't see the material, it's really hard to learn that stuff. Outside of that, let's just get some practice on the following worksheet. Again, remember, you are going to have a quiz on this at the end of the week, so be sure to ask questions. Again, you may use calculators to find the answers on this sheet because the numbers are going to be more realistic, plus there's no need in torturing you on this. So good luck.